Welcome to India Podcasts.
Hello and welcome to another episode with me, Ankur Goyal. Digitization has become the new normal during the COVID-19 crisis, and the banking sector has adopted to this change in technology quite fast. To discuss this in details, today I am being joined by Ankur Joshi, who is the CEO and co-founder of Nuclei, a company that prepares the API interface for banks and helps make mobile banking an easy and compatible platform. Ankur, who is an IITian from Bombay, has started this company in October 2018 and within 2 years has managed to rope in more than 17 banks across globe, including State Bank of India, ICICI Bank, Canara Bank, DBS, Standard Chartered, and many more, and helped redefine and reimagine banking through the digital space.
We are building products for the banks along with the bankers. So we're building a product for from a loyalty perspective as well. We are building a couple of products on the digital banking front as well. And there was a point during the initial phase of the lockdown where everyone had to work from home, and there were certain processes which were never designed thinking that no one will come to office. So they have also realized that every process needs to become a human independent. Today, I think we are working with around 17 odd banks, and we are now planning to expand into Southeast Asia, Middle East, as well as look at other markets. The impact because of COVID, we can't run away. We have to accept it as a collateral damage of this event. Yes, there could be couple of integrations, couple of categories which may not survive after 6 months. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be cautious, but don't panic. Because if you panic, you will make a wrong decision.
Thank you so much, Ankur, for joining today for our India Podcast viewers and listeners here. It is a privilege to have you here, and most importantly, into a space you're in is now considered the space we are all approaching to, digital platform, and especially your space that you have come into is the banking space. Banking services are primarily where everybody is engaging digitally now. First and foremost, I would want to understand from you is how is your platform used to help engage banks and customers easily and frequently, especially in this time where we are going to a digital and virtual means?
Thank you, Uncle. It's pleasure to be on your podcast. Thanks for having me, and it's very good to speak to. Our names are very very similar, so pardon me if I confuse or say Anku instead of Uncle. So anyway, thanks for having us. Essentially, the way we are helping the banks is helping them integrate with multiple third-party APIs. So we have created an API platform which integrates with the bank, as well as we create the front-end customer experience. So ours is essentially a B2B2C platform or a product where we integrate with a bank, but in turn, our product is used by the end consumer of the banks. So we power multiple categories, multiple transactional categories, which banks customers, when they log into the bank's app, are able to transact across various daily use cases like flights, hotels, recharge, bill payments, gift cards, or donations, etc., etc.
Yes.
Accordingly, our objective is that a bank's customer generally for doing a banking transaction on an average comes to the bank's app maybe say 2 or 3 times in a month. But to do all these daily use cases, this enables them to engage and interact with the bank's property or bank's app several times, maybe 10 or 20 times in a month. And that's how the engagement increases. This also enables us to get more face time with the bank's customers, and then are able to, upsell and cross-sell various other banking products to the customer. In turn, increasing the customer's lifetime value or overall value to the bank.
So it's more of strengthening the relationship between the banking facilitator and the customers who are engaged, making them more familiar to each other.
Correct. So earlier, like if you go back, say, a couple of generations back or even a generation back, for example, my dad or my granddad, both of them had a very good relationship with the branch manager. But if you ask me, I for one don't even know my branch. So my interaction with the bank is mostly digital from a personal perspective. It's only when it comes to my company where I have to a few times in a year to facilitate some paperwork, etc. But otherwise, my interaction with the bank is completely digital. So our objective is to make sure that, and specifically now in the post-COVID era, this will be even more so. So people will refrain from going physically to any branch or standing in a long queue, etc., or going to a crowded space. So they would want all the interaction which they have been having with the bank to move digital, and that's what we are also helping the banks achieve. And
Interesting thing, Ankur, you've mentioned here is our physical engagement with banking is now reducing. Now, in fact, there's a saying that even somewhere Aditya Puri had said that is India moving towards a completely no physical banking system? Not 100%, but almost there. My question to you first is security is a major question. So, how secure can a customer feel? Because digital space, as we know, many apps have been pulled out of the system because of the various issues of hacking and all. So, what security are you assuring to the customers?
See, from a theoretical perspective, the apps are completely secure. There is no vulnerability from the app's perspective. The vulnerability generally comes from the person's perspective, where people sometimes, because they are not knowledgeable about a certain thing, share some of the, sensitive data or their OTPs or their passwords with people who say claim to be a bank's or claim to be a bank personnel, etc., etc. So banks are also very, very actively, educating people about not to share their card numbers or their OTP with anyone to make sure that they are secure. But if you talk about the bank system, they are absolutely robust. Very, very rarely, probably very few times in the last couple of decades, there have been any issues from a security perspective. So banks, obviously, specifically Indian banks, are slightly more conservative when it comes to security. I think that will also open up a bit. They will also become more welcoming of cloud infrastructure going forward. And like cloud, again, from what we hear in general terms is claim to be insecure or not that secure. But I believe that we will overcome that perception, and cloud will become the new norm going forward. As long as people are responsible about the information which they have, their own information, I think the systems are completely secure.
From there, what is the kind of approach you found from banks? Because as we've been speaking to banks, they are much moving towards a technologically upgraded approach for a long time now. It's been quite there. The fintech companies have been growing, and post COVID, as you said, it would increase. So, how are you seeing the banks engage with you, and where do you see it grow? Because the customer demand is also decreasing in terms of the economy. If we talk about, so how is the balance maintained there?
So again, like I don't want to comment on the economy. Obviously, we all know that it will probably decrease. GDP will decrease over a period of time, next few months at least, till we either have a vaccine in place or we get this COVID virus under control. Having said that, for us, the growth is slightly inverted. Banks are welcoming about digital. They are moving more aggressively towards, transforming their assets and transforming their processes to a more digital processes. And therefore, it has been a good couple of months for us. We have signed 2 new deals with banks, and we are getting more interest, not just from India but also from Middle East and Southeast Asia, about integrating our services, integrating our product, and make sure that the customer's interaction with the bank becomes more and more digital. So I think banks have also realized, because there was a point during the initial phase of the lockdown where everyone had to work from home, and there were certain processes which were never designed thinking that no one will come to office. So they had to redesign that. They had to hustle and make sure that things will continue to work. So they have also realized that every process needs to become a human independent, needs to become automated, needs to become remote friendly, and that's what they are also aggressively moving towards. I've had interactions with bankers in the last few weeks where people are saying that we need to move slightly away from branch banking, or at least make it a premium offering where people who absolutely are necessary to come to the branch, only they should come to the branch, and everyone else should be able to do whatever they want to do with the bank through digital means.
When you're choosing your tie-up with different kind of banks, now private and public sector banks, they have a different domain. So are you choosing your partner based on which target market are you looking at? More of corporate tie-up banking or more of retail banking space? What is your lookout?
So I think on the retail side, we'll see slight slowdown because people's salaries will be affected. Unemployment will it has already increased. It will probably be under pressure for the next few months. So on the retail side, we might see a slowdown for the next few months. But when you come to the SME side, now a lot of businesses will require cash to survive. The decision and the key part from the bank's perspective will be the risk angle. How do they define their risk parameters to see which SME is a good SME to provide the loan and will honor that loan, and which are not? So that's something which the banks are actively working towards. I know, again, like 6 or 7 banks with whom we have had active conversations from an SME loan project perspective. and they are very bullish that the SME portfolio will grow. Retail slightly won't grow as much, would still grow. Why? Because people might invest into vehicles. Automotive sector has slowed down a bit, but once the economy opens up, once the lockdown gets over, people would probably refrain from using public transport and will probably move to private transport. So that might help give a push to the automotive sector and the retail loan portfolio as well. But again, as I said, like these are uncertain times, unprecedented times for everyone. I don't want to make any predictions, but we'll have to just see how it comes, how it pans out.
If you can just give me a sense, sector-wise, you have a lot of sectors facility that you've provided through the banking apps. Like one can use a feature for booking a flight to a hotel to various other activities they can do. Where do you see the demand pull up? And even before COVID, and of course with the COVID impact, we might see an impact across. So can you give a sense around that? Where is the more traction and transaction happening around that?
So we have definitely seen, like, since 25th of I think around 20th of May, the flight transactions have again picked up. Not to the same levels of what they were in February, but they have picked up nonetheless. This could be a temporary uptick and could go down and settle at a certain number over the next few weeks, because people want to get back home. People want to travel back to there, because there were a lot of people who were stuck in particular cities and weren't able to reach back home before the lockdown. So they might be traveling back and forth between. So it might decline over the period of time, but I fear that specifically from a flights category perspective, it might be good 6-9 months, or probably a year before we see any the numbers which we saw in February, specifically international domestic both. So that's where probably travel sector will be the hardest hit.
Yeah.
But if you look at, say, recharge transactions or bill payment transactions, they haven't stopped. Probably the recharge transactions have increased. Why? Because people are working from home, they are recharging their data plans more and consuming internet more just by watching Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hotstar. So those transactions have increased. Entertainment, stay at home entertainment definitely has taken up. So that's something which is interesting to see, and probably will pan out over the next 6 to 9 months as well.
You won't need to reshuffle your sector categories there, because we see, at least as you said, 6 to 9 months of slump coming straight down. So would you need to reshuffle or bring up more advantageous, beneficial services for the people?
Correct. So as I said, like, we already have 12 categories. So from a category perspective, we are well diversified as of now. Obviously, travel sector going down affected us as well. We are looking at coming up with 2 or 3 more categories which could help or which could grow well in the next year or so. One of them, which is actually doing very well, is the donations category. So people who have enough resources, they have been donating very, very nicely, and our donations category has taken up in the last couple of months by probably increased by 500% or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that is something which was very interesting to see. Further, like, there will be categories like credit reports, or specifically there will be interest from both personal loan perspective as well as SME loan perspective. So those categories are also bound to do well.
About the awareness, can you help me understand how will you make the customers aware to coming into this kind of utility very easy? Because whatever is available is what is comfortable for people to go on to Go Ivibo, many other brands I won't want to name now. But how are you going to work on your awareness among the customers to make it more aware, friendly with the applications of the banks?
Correct. So it's a question of distribution. How do you market the categories? How do you distribute it to the customers? Now, if you look at from a trust perspective, like, banks have historically retained the customer's trust. So customers don't trust any third party or a new app immediately. It takes time to build. With banks specifically, whether it's the name bank or whether they feel comfortable because they've seen the name or they have been there for decades, customers automatically trust the banks. So any transaction which they have to do on the bank, they trust that even if it fails, they will get their money back.
Do you need to train them? Do you need to train them how to use the application? Is that training or guidelines quite?
Actually, no. The way our customer journeys are defined or they are built, we haven't reinvented the wheel in terms of how a customer books a flight. The journeys are more or less the same. There's no cognitive load there while booking a flight or while booking or doing a recharge. So there is no cognitive load there. The only matter is getting the customer into these particular categories and getting them transacting. The one big advantage which customers have while transacting through a bank's app is that there are multiple categories, and if they get any cashback, they can spend that cashback across all those categories.
Yes.
For example, if it's a particular app is just focused on travel, they can use that cashback in a restrictive manner only on those travel categories. But in our case, because we have so many categories, they can use it across any of the categories. So that's a very big advantage which banks customers have.
You've given me an answer to the question that I wanted to ask on the cashback front also. But one question I would ask, a little going beyond your work there, is I was just going through the profile, also the journey that you had in the banking space, you being from IIT Bombay there. Can you tell us what led you into the space, or the requirement that you felt that we should come up with something like this, and you wanted to
Sure, sure,
work
sure.
around the space? You had an
Sure, sure,
opportunity to
sure.
work with
Sure, sure. So this is the fourth business which I'm building. A couple of businesses didn't do well. Our last company got acquired. Uh, Before starting Nuclei, we sat down and thought about all the mistakes which we made in the previous three businesses, and just listed them down and made sure that we want to have these as guiding principles for Nuclei, and then build the business on top of it. So one of the first thing which we wanted was to build a sustainable business. So we wanted to be profitable from day one, and therefore, when we thought about, and this was even before we came up with the idea that we'll build this product for a particular industry, we just listed down the industries. So we went after banking, we went after insurance, we went after telco. This was, I think, early 2018, and just went and spoke to all these, executives from all these three industries, and tried to understand what are the problems which we can solve for them by building a product, building a tech product. uh, Telcos at that point of time were going through a difficult period, and therefore weren't able to give us cash upfront, and wouldn't, and like it won't be a sustainable business. So we paused approaching telcos
I
for
think they're
18 and
not paying it
19.
even now. I think they're not out of
No,
date.
no, no, no. So again, a telco is a difficult business to run. Trust me. So again, so going back, like between banking and insurance, probably insurance was behind banking when it came to digital transformation by a couple of years. So we paused insurance also at that point of time and just focused on banking. So we went and met around 100 odd banks across Middle East, Southeast Asia, and India, and literally built the product from one meeting to the next. So we had a basic idea of building an API platform. We wanted the bankers to tell us what they would want to see in this product, and then just kept on adding from one meeting to the next. And that's how we built up the product. Uh, because we were building along with them, it was not very difficult to sell it to them. So automatically, the first three or four banks bought our product because they built it along with us. So, and once you have four banks or five banks live on your platform, signing the next banks become very very easy. Like it becomes incrementally easier once you go. So today, I think we are working with around 17 odd banks.
Yes.
We're live with 11 of them, 16 of them in India, one outside India. And we are now planning to expand into Southeast Asia, Middle East, as well as look at other markets.
So as you're talking about your expansion plan, the geographies that you're defining for expansion would be, where would you look at expansion based more of in the
So
geographies?
currently we are focusing on Middle East and Southeast Asia, but we are also at the same time exploring North America as well.
You also expand on your product line, in the sense you would want to bring up more for such features which can be enabling banking system as a whole, or financial services industry as a whole. Would you be expanding on that front as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So as I said, like we are building products for the banks along with the bankers. So we continuously speak with them. We continuously ask them what their needs are, what their wants are, and work with them. So it's a very consultative approach. Work with them to figure out what could be the next product which we can build for them, and then along with them we build it. And because we have so many banks as customers, once we have built for a few couple of or three, four banks, then it's easier for us to go and sell it to the rest of the banks as well. So we're building a product for from a loyalty perspective as well. We are building a couple of products on the digital banking front as well. We are building a product specifically focused on credit cards and how a credit card customer would interact with the bank, and so on and so forth. So we will be
Different
expanding.
categories and
Yeah,
diversifying around it.
yeah.
So one question also I should take on, since you've been an investment banker, I know you don't want to talk about economy at large, but I'm sure you have been quite looking at markets now. What is your take on it? Do you think we know the COVID impact has been making it all volatile, but if you want to just understand how you look at the markets movement being so volatile, and no one can understand the trend right now, it doesn't know where we are going.
Yeah, it's very uncertain. It's not a prudent time to invest in multiple stocks. But if a particular company is doing very well, if the management is good, and even if, see again, like this COVID impact will be for 2 or 3 years. If you're a long-term investor for say 10 or 15 years, it doesn't really matter a blip of 2 or 3 years. As long as the company is say compounding at 15 or 20% per annum over a period of 15 years, it will make up. So I invest in few stocks, not many, and I continue to invest in them. So like I'm not stopping my investment just because it has gone down, or I have
Even
not
sector
increased
wise,
my
do you have
investment.
a pick like these sectors are quite stable because infra is somewhere where people are quite not even taking just understanding from a person who's been in that space for long.
I am no expert on stocks. I'm no expert. I'm a very immature investor. It's just that I like a few companies. I like their management, and I've seen that they have performed very well over the last 15, 20 years, and therefore in an individual capacity I invest in them. But no, please, like don't take my advice for it.
One important question, as we have spoken about the sector-wise services that you are allowing through your feature, we understand that some of the sectors you have been providing the service for are going through a really tough time. In fact, there are talks about some of them will take a major hit and be wiped out in the terms of the industry. So, are you worried that the features that you are allowing or providing will not have any utility or would continue to be same for the longest time? So, that will have an
See,
impact. The COVID is going to have an impact.
it will definitely have an impact. It's a black swan event. We can't run away from the worst case scenario. So we have already thought through the worst case scenarios. We have already planned for the worst case scenarios, and now we are hoping for the best. So yes, in case there are a couple of categories or a couple of integrations which don't survive uh, the impact because of COVID, that's something which is acceptable, and we can't run away. We have to accept it as a collateral damage of this event, black swan event, and we have to learn to live with it. There is no other option. There's no point in being scared about it. Yes, there could be a couple of integrations, couple of categories which may not survive after 6 months, and it's absolutely fine. We have to learn to hustle. We have to learn to figure out some other way to survive. And trust me, it's actually just about that survival. So as a company also, we are very focused on surviving this period. So thriving comes after, but we have to make sure that we survive this period. So that's what we are focused on.
So your next venture is going to expand this product. We're not looking at you now expanding into another a different model altogether, but you'll be expanding into the product that you're working on currently. Is that how we understand it?
Correct. So we are also expanding into different industries. So as I said, like telcos, couple of years back was not the right time to target them. Probably now or 6 months later it will be. So we are targeting telcos again, not just in India but across the region also. Again, and expanding into different regions in the same banking sector, because that's where that's the industry which we understand. That's where we have a product market fit, and we will be expanding into multiple geographies. And again, like as I said, from a product line perspective, it's a line extension for us. Whatever the bankers want, whatever we feel that this is something which is important for the banks to offer to their customers, we always go back to them and pitch to them. So that product line will keep expanding. From a geography perspective, will also keep expanding, and we are hoping that from just being focused on banking industry, we'll be able to expand into telco industry as well.
Good, your message for people, because somewhere we see you also acting as bankers have been a warrior in this entire pandemic. You are also helping them because providing a service going digital is what the bankers have been aiming at. What is your message for customers at this point in time of sitting home and trying to adjust to the change in the entire environment and the new normal to say so?
I think the message is the same which I give to all my team as well. That it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be cautious, but don't panic. Because if you panic, you will make a wrong decision. Plus, be okay or think through the worst case scenarios and be okay with the outcome, because it's not under your control, not completely under your control. So think through the worst case scenario, have a plan for it, so that if at all that worst case scenario becomes a reality, you will know what to do instead of panicking at that point of time. So be scared, be cautious, but don't panic.
I think that's a really smart one coming from IIT, and we might expect that coming from you only. So thank you so much for giving that time and understanding. It's been a very different, it's a different view to look at how everybody's together putting up the banking services and helping them reach out the customers in the best ways. Thank you so much, Ankur. And we hope it grows faster and we can take the benefit of it as soon as we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anku. Thank you again for having me on your podcast.
Brought to you by India Podcasts in association with ICI Healthcare.